Hey y'all, it's Kevin Orris. In this video, I'm going to be interviewing Otto Gomes on all things cryptocurrency, blockchain, Bitcoin, and the like. This is going to be a great episode if you want to understand why everyone is raving. We all have that one friend who's raving about Bitcoin, etc. And we're going to dive into the nitty gritty. What's up, brother?
What up? How are you?
Oh man, I'm so good, man. So good to have you here. I've been following you for a while now, and man, I'm excited about this one. How are you, bro?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it, man. I always love talking about crypto, but I always love connecting with other men and other brothers.
Yeah, I think you reached out to me a while ago. I remember you DM'd me about Sacred Sons, and then I saw you went now to multiple, right?
Yeah. I actually met them, man, I'm gonna say almost 5 years ago. It was like 2018, I think, when I went to the first event. It was in Venice Beach. But yeah, they've really helped pivot my life in a lot of ways. Really helped me become aware of a lot of things of myself. But yeah, I thought that's where I had met you, but now that you mentioned that, I guess how did we meet? Because I remember we met a minute ago, but I don't remember exactly how that happened.
No idea. It could have been in Austin. It could have been in California. I know we have a lot of mutual friends and brothers out there, but yeah.
I'm just glad that we're connecting and
Yeah,
using
same, bro.
using these technologies to connect, not just escape.
Totally, totally. So Otto, for folks that don't know about your work or that they're gonna watch this later, tell us about what you do and how you got into it.
Yeah, so I've been in the crypto space for almost a decade, since like 2000. It was like the end of 2012, beginning of 2013. Before that, I was an accountant. I worked in an accounting office almost a decade. So numbers, it was easy for me to calculate and to see the practical formulas. Like the math works. So
Right.
that's I think why I was able to really quickly jump into it, as well as like just being open to technology and understanding technology with the way that I did back then, because nobody in my family, at least, thought could see it like I could, and they were all like my dad's an accountant, both my brothers are accountant. So yeah, so I went hard into it back then, and I haven't gone back to a 9 to 5 since 2017.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we all have this story, and I always love asking it. Who was the first person that told you about Bitcoin, and what was it like?
So it was it's funny, it was my cousin's husband, who's the IT guy. He's like the tech guy for my accounting office that I worked in. And I remember it was just like, it was tax season. It was just a regular day. And I was on my computer, and he comes over and he's like, "Did you hear about Bitcoin?" "No, what is that?" This was, like I said, 2012, 2013. And as soon as I started doing a little bit, I mean, as soon as I Googled it and started doing a little bit of research into it, that was it. I mean, I went down the rabbit hole, start to peel back the layers, and just embraced it.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, it's amazing that you were an accountant also. My mom and my brother have been accountants, and my whole family's like in financial services, even
Oh.
my uncles and aunts. So, I was kind of like the psychedelic black sheep where I was like, fuck all this, and like I'm gonna be a yoga teacher and a philosopher and a psychologist, and I kind of went the other way. And I came full circle because my good buddy, who actually is here in Bali, um, he showed me Bitcoin, and it was when mesh nets were coming out. So you remember, like in the Arab Spring, when they would cut the internet in like some of these countries like Syria, Jordan, Egypt, and the people would create mesh nets. So basically, just using Bluetooth without like big internet providers, they were able to create local like intranets. And he was sharing that where like you'd be incentivized to create a mesh net node for the network and get paid in satoshis, like
That's
the tiny
amazing.
parts of Bitcoin.
Where was
Yeah, and
this?
I was hooked as well.
What country was this?
Well, I mean, I met him in California, but he was sharing this technology which they had used in the Arab Spring, right? Like this mesh network architecture, which for me was the sign of the times, right? This was like 2013 or 14, you know, somewhat later. But you know, it's about sovereignty, and it's about taking things like communication, things like networks, things like transactions into our hands and putting the value back in the hands of the people. So in all my crypto content, Otto, I'd love to ask this question. Can you explain what the blockchain is to us like we're 5 years old?
Sure, yeah. So the best way that I can explain it, because there's so many layers that actually create the blockchain. And every layer has a different reason for existing. So it's like, oh, how do I analogize all the layers together? The best analogy that I came up with was a forest. So think of blockchain as being a natural existing ecosystem, right? Just like a forest that you can walk into, and there's abundance everywhere. If you can pick fruit from the tree, you can tap into the water that's coming out of the ground. You know, you can hunt some animals, eat meat, whatever you want to do, right? You're in the jungle. If you know the jungle, if you do the research and you have the experience and you embody it, you're going to probably survive. You're going to have a good experience. You're going to be able to, you know, use the benefits of that ecosystem to thrive. Whereas the person that doesn't understand it or is not used to it, they're not going to have a good time. They're gonna be in survival mode or not know how to deal with it, and probably you know, either die or lose something. So the blockchain, okay, is the basic fundamental layer that creates the whole industry. This analogy is explaining that big layer, like what makes up the entire industry. The blockchain layer is what makes it the jungle. It makes it like that anybody can access it. It makes it that it's this open source. Anybody can walk into it. So what's happening now? Okay, so let me finish the analogy. So so you have all these things that's abundance, and it's just a matter of how much energy you put into getting used to or getting confident in that ecosystem. And then there's another little layer that is what I love about it, that really like allows us to disconnect from their systems, is that it's a natural officiator. It's a natural, how do I say this? A natural registrar. You know, my opinion is this: the blockchain is a trustless system that was created for us to start trusting each other again. And the systems that don't want us to trust each other, they're trying to centralize it and trying to control it again, because they're like, oh, this is not good. We need to make sure that we have control of this, or else we're gonna lose control. So that's really what blockchain is. It's like, it's this whole paradigm shift to a type of technology that allows us to connect to each other without having them in the middle of it. That's it.
Right.
It's like taking back ownership of the energy that is what we've been doing this whole time with money. We've just been, putting our self-worth into it and transacting with it. Crypto is just giving us now the ability to re-internalize that self-worth and be in control of the digital versions of our worth. You know, and that shouldn't be how it is. We shouldn't be externalizing our worth. But my belief is that the more we become aware of it being the representation of our self-worth, then we can take control of it and start to direct it in the directions that we want it to go, to bring more joy.
That's right. I love that. I see that very much as well, where technology and consciousness are co-evolving. And technology you can just look at as like externalizing our mind or externalizing consciousness. So it's no coincidence that, you know, during the 2008 financial crisis with mortgage-backed subprime loans, that Satoshi, whoever that was or were, issued the white paper for Bitcoin. It's happening at the same time. And this is a big solution in the space of the problem, like the double entry problem, right? And like what we've been doing in banking. You know, you can't go to your Bank of America or Wells Fargo and be like, hey, can I see all the transactions you did today? Or can you show me the transactions of so-and-so? They're never going to do it. And that's why so much fraud in the space. And like, You know, we see things like, you know, banks getting bailed out, and it turns out they were running a pretty shady shop behind the scenes. Blockchain is solving that, because now we have a transparent, trustless ledger, like you said, which paradoxically is helping us trust each other. And Otto, I mean, I'm sure you know the Bankless podcast. I love these guys. And they refer to, like, you know, since the white paper was like year zero, right? Anno Satoshi, right? AS. So we're only in like 13 AD in terms of when Bitcoin was born. So we're in its infancy. And I think this decade is going to be very exciting. And I'm curious for you, like, since 2020, basically, when this bull market exploded and a lot of stuff's happened, regulation's starting to happen, a lot of innovation has happened. Like, where do you see the puck moving right now? Like, what are you really tracking in the entire space of blockchain?
That's an interesting question, because recently, it's like been very recent for me, like 2 weeks, that I've completely shifted my perspective and like what I'm focusing on now. There's a lot of noise. I even saw this like person, who was it? It was a video from Roger's Neighborhood. What's that guy's name? The guy that used to be
Mr. Rogers?
Yeah, Mr. Rogers. So he said, yeah, this world, everybody just wants information. We want the busyness, the buzziness of information. Why don't we want silence anymore? Nobody wants calmness and stillness anymore. And where we're at now, this was like an interview from like the 80s. Where we're at now, it's like, it's so chaotic that, like, I've noticed in doing business with other people, you have to be okay with not getting an answer immediately because there's so much information bombarding us right now that it's impossible to keep track of. It's impossible. That's why they need AI, because they're like, we need information. We need information to be able to know how to make more money. And so, like, well, let's make an AI that will just gather everything, and then we'll consolidate it, and then blah, 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 blah. And then you start going into this like weird intellectual control driven, capitalism, and it's toxic. It's so toxic, divisive. Constantly somebody needs to lose for you to win. So
zero sum,
right? So I had to kind of like step away for a bit because of all that noise and go like, okay, what are we doing here with crypto? Like, what is going on? Because it started off really well. When I was in 2012, I was like, oh, sweet. We're creating new systems that are not theirs. Awesome. And it was great for like, I remember for like 3-4 years, it was very sovereign back then. I don't even like using that word now, but it was very like separated. It was very private. And then it was like around 2015, I remember, where a Ripple, and then there was a few companies came out, and they were just copies of the projects that already existed, and then they just rebranded them. And then there's like a ton of money put into the marketing. And I'm like, whoa, that's weird. Where's all this money coming from? It's not just us using it inside this ecosystem. It was just all this new money coming in. And now it's been coming in consistently to where now it's at a level of like $1.5 billion a day. Like, not even kidding. It's a lot of money. Wow. And there's only like 4 or 5 million people in the space that understand it enough to benefit from all that money coming in. So with all that said, I see it like this. You are going to get public projects, and then you're going to get private projects. The private projects, you're not going to know who they are. You're never going to know who they are, basically, because they're private. Okay? The public projects, you're going to heavily know who they are. There's 2 types of public projects. There's the deliberate scam, the one that they made it just to scam you. And then there's the ones that are like the indoctrinated scams, which is just the old system trying to, create the old system on the new technology. Right. The same mindset, the same flow of energy to the top of a pyramid. It's not regenerative. It's the same toxicity. And then there's the other type of public project are the ones that are like not understanding that it's because they're in the public that it's going to always fall to the scrutiny and of evil, and to the scrutiny of government, and to the scrutiny of that jurisdiction, the public jurisdiction. Mm-hmm. So you do have a bunch of projects that are like trying to be sovereign, but they're being public, So they're fighting. They're always going to fight against the grain because the public sector is theirs. Theirs meaning maritime law jurisdiction, which is the evil that we've all been born into. So the true path forward I'm noticing now is local and private. If we're not creating locally and privately, we're going to be attracting all that stuff. So what does that mean? It means find, create your own ecosystem. Start to create your own communities. That's true decentralization. When we have millions of projects out there, millions of DAOs individually, like with 500 people each, it's over. It's over because then it would be too many private organizations that they don't have jurisdiction over, legally have jurisdiction over, because you almost have to create like discrimination. You have to be a little bit discriminatory, not in the way they teach us, right? The discrimination that they say is discrimination is like evil. It's just like surface level. No, it's about, do you align with our with being sovereign, with bodily autonomy, with freedom of choice, create bylaws. But that's basically the answer. That's what I see. It's private, public.
Yeah, I'm totally with you there. It has to be a local grassroots, and it's incentivizing the actual rebuilding of tribes and villages, right? Like Dunbar's number.
Right
like
there.
That's actually what it is. Because
tribes,
at
assemblies,
scale,
tribes. Yep.
Right. At scale, it becomes the mob. And the mob, as we're watching, will scapegoat people and go on witch hunts, and the mob will rise to the level of activity that the mob can create, which you said is just so much information warfare. And the mob will also lower to the lowest common denominator of emotional violence, basically. And this is where DAOs and small tokenized communities with privacy, as you're mentioning, so they're not as subjected to the market forces that are predatory and zero-sum game.
You wouldn't.
This is it.
It would be zero effect for mainstream anything because it's behind a private wall. The effects, the worth that's accumulated behind the private wall doesn't get affected by that. And one thing that I wanted to add to it that created a whole new layer of protection for that energy, so we're not bringing in that negative energy, is create a sweat equity barrier to where, you want to be in this DAO, you want to be a part of our ecosystem. Let's say it's like a regenerative farm. Cool, come to our farm for a week and plant some food, and then you can invest into the DAO. So that puts the human element back into it. That requires, it's like, I don't care how much money you have. If you're not coming in to do the work, we don't want you here, period. And that's how it is. That's the way forward, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah, I love that. I want to say, nothing on this podcast is financial advice, of course. This is for entertainment and informational purposes, but I would be remiss not to ask Otto, for the folks out there, what is your basic investment strategy? Are you like a DCA holding kind of guy, or do you stick with just the big dogs, or do you have a specific strategy? I know you teach a lot of this in your programs.
Yeah. So when I'm teaching my class, I have an 8-week class that I teach. I try to focus primarily on how to make money. I try to focus on all the other options other than trading, because I've learned that trading is just toxic, man. And even the word, it's not really trading, right? The original trading, bartering, that was trading where nobody lost, right? It was just like, you got something I want, it was just trade. This is not trading. This is like zero-sum game, right? It's like taking from as much as I can. So I do teach a little bit of that. I do teach some strategies to mitigate volatility. So there is a strategy that I do on how to diversify your investment, that whatever amount of your full portfolio that you put in the crypto space, I teach how to diversify that so that there's not a lot of volatility. Like keeping a huge chunk in a stable coin, keeping the next level huge chunk in the top 5, the ones that have a lot of liquidity, because then you're not, the fluctuations aren't as high as a low liquidity coin or a low market cap coin. So there are a lot of techniques that I teach that help diversify that. With that said, I also make sure that I include the unicorn projects, the newer projects and that's the difference. I've learned that in the crypto space, the new money flows downstream. So it starts with the older projects. It'll go first into the older projects, and then it'll slowly go down the stream of based on when they were innovated. So right now, it starts with the we call them the rocks, or the commodities, like Bitcoin, Ethereum. You can even include Litecoin into there. All the OGs I would consider to be holds of value. And then you got the online computing projects, Ethereum, ADA, Matic. You got all these, that you can actually create more value on the chain. And then the next one is interoperability. So like the cross chain. And so as you go down the river, you're lowering the percentage that you're investing, because that's going to be, you're going to have more to gain, but less volatility.
Right.
I mean, I have a friend who invested $150 into Ethereum back in 2017. It's worth $100,000 now, more than $100,000. So that technique really works, because I make sure to put you in all of it, but lower the risk. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Diversification, for anyone that's even dabbled in any kind of investment, it's going to be your best bet, because you don't want all your eggs in one basket, and you also just get exposed to more of the market. And crypto market moves at light speed, right? Like it's speed running the history of money, the history of finance, and I think the history of governance right now. Like in 1 year of crypto time, it's like that was like 10 years in the traditional TradFi system, right?
Yeah, I always tell people because I say short term, long term. And then they're like, all right, so the long term. So it's like 10 years? I'm like, oh, sorry, I forget that you're not in crypto. Short term is 6 months, 6 to 12 months. Long term is maybe 1 to 2 years. Yeah, it's very different ecosystem. And it's funny you said that, because, in my class I teach that money is basically just a representation of our self-worth. We've normalized externalizing the self-worth. So everybody's like, money, 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 or I got to look a certain way because that means that I have money, which means I have worth. When in reality, it's just the representation of our self-worth, which should be internalized. So, in the evolution of money, crypto being the fastest now, and also being the first time that we can take it back into our custody, right? To own it. It's now essentially the most direct way to express how our relationship is to abundance, to love, to all that stuff. So I tell people all the time, don't stagnate your crypto. Don't stagnate your crypto. Because again, this is the fastest way to move energy. If you stagnate it, somebody's going to come in and siphon the energy. It doesn't mean that you lose the crypto. It means that the value will drop, right? The value will, oh God, somebody came in and took it. So you really have to be aware of where, there's such a thing as over diversification, where you can get you spread too thin, and then you can't keep up with all the projects. So there's a middle ground there, and all that to say that this is a direct representation of that energy. So the more aware you are of that, the better.
Yeah, I love that. It's so true that our self-worth and your net worth and what we conceptualize money, or the symbolic representation we place onto it, is deeply personal development. Anyone who's been in crypto for any sizable amount of time will tell you that it will test you, and there's an emotional quantum field that you're interfacing with, and I think it can build character and teach you so much. Certainly I've learned a ton being in and out of it since 2014, and certainly trading will be the most brutal school of hard knocks, but just the investment and the abundance, as you said, there's really no other game in town I've found, even entrepreneurship, that can create abundance as quickly, but also in a grounded way, if you're practicing some of the principles you're talking about, than crypto. And I hope to continue to see that. And really what you said, the self-custodianship, not your keys, not your crypto. Again, you can't go to, Chase Bank and have the same kind of custodian ability and self-responsibility that you can with crypto. And I'm sure you're also teaching like security measures and safety around wallets and all of that. And I'm sure, would you recommend like hardware wallets, and are you putting stuff in cold storage, or are you more of a staking DeFi guy, or both?
Both. Yeah, both. I have no money in right now. I do. I have some money in the bank because I'm about to move. So I had to show that there's money in the bank, because these guys, I show my crypto wallet and they're like, what is this? What do you mean, what is this? It's a wallet. And I was like, I'm not going to go down that road. So I usually I don't have any money in the bank, and I have everything in most of it in stable coin, at least the amount that I play with on a daily basis. But I keep, I want to say maybe 30% of it in a warm wallet, like a MetaMask, or well, what I do is I actually just changed it recently because I was like, oh, you can do this now. I keep it all on my device, my Treasure, and then I use that to connect to the MetaMask to then open it up to a dApp. So that's like a way to kind of bypass having to keep money in a warm wallet, even though you still own the private key. You know, it's always connected to the internet. So that's what I do. I don't keep any money in exchanges. This is not stocks. This is not commodities. This is not something, it's not Ameritrade where you go into the website, buy it, and then you log out and then it's over. No, you buy the crypto in that exchange and then you take it out and put it in a wallet that you have access to the private keys.
Right. I think that is a very solid move. And a lot of people have learned that the hard way, right? Because crypto is a frontier, and most people I talk to that aren't familiar, they just think it's pure scam town, right? And then all they hear about is rug pulls and the horror stories, and obviously the media has portrayed all that. But what people don't realize is when there's a frontier of innovation, that's where, you know, the outlaws hang out, right? Just like the old frontier. That's also where the prospectors and the innovators and the creators hang out. So there's such a mixed bag there. And it's, you know, it's hard to appreciate if you've only been taught, you know, to play it safe and hyper conservative, you know, mindset. And Otto, for folks that don't know, and I'm curious your thoughts on, someone asked a question here earlier on NFTs and the metaverse. Like, well, what is that going to take us into? And are you investing or playing in any of those territories?
So I've actually been dabbling in NFTs much longer than what's happening now. I started back in 2017. There's this company that I'm invested into. They've been working on blockchain gaming since then. And they actually have some functioning ones right now. They have like 3 or 4 games that are functioning on the blockchain that you can use your NFT in their game. Just like a DSL or a DLC skin in a game, right?
Right.
So that's great and all, and that's definitely going to happen. They're going to glamorize the escapism. I don't know if you ever watched that movie Ready Player One.
Oh yeah.
You know, that's essentially what they're going to do. They're going to create. There's going to be all these projects popping up, creating their own little worlds, their own little universes, which most of it is just a copy of our reality. And they just create a digital version. And then you can go to their world and buy land and then get a car, all this stuff. So they're going to create all these different worlds to a point where there's going to be so many that's going to be the metaverse. The metaverse is going to be, which world do you want to go to? And we'll be able to just experience that in the way that we want to. And NFTs, really what NFTs do is that they're digital uniqueness. That's probably the best, simplest way to explain it. It's digital uniqueness. It's a way to create a digital version of something physical, or not. It doesn't have to be anything physical. It can just be a digital thing, but it's unique to itself, and there's no other one that exists like it. Another way to say it is a digital physical. So, you know, that's essentially what it is. So like I said, I think they're in the public systems, they're going to glamorize it to suck you in and to keep you in in the metaverse. What I'm looking at it as is a way to take back ownership of our digital selves, right? Bring the custody of our digital selves back to ourselves. Why? So that we don't have to use their systems. So we would essentially still live in the same houses, still go to the same places, still be in the same physical locations, but now Now we're using a system that they don't own, that we have control of, and we can communicate with each other. We can connect that NFT, create an NFT and connect that, register a house to it, register a car to it, register our birth. We can create birth certificate NFTs that are not part of their bond system, part of our system. So I was just talking to, do you know Robert Michael from House of Marcus?
Yeah.
If you know what that is. Okay. So I was literally just talking to him today about it. And that's essentially what we would do. We would take back ownership of our digital selves, where we wouldn't have the legal person anymore. We would have just a digital representation of the natural person.
I love that. So you're deep in the rabbit hole of like legal versus lawful and maritime law and all that stuff. I mean, that's a whole rabbit hole.
It's the private public, man. It's that simple.
Right.
It's literally that simple. And it's just the spiritual layers are important too. It's not just like filling out paperwork and doing the practical. If you don't if you don't embody what that looks like to be private and to be in that space, they can use etymology. They'll use words to entrap you again, essentially.
Right. That's that world of black magic. We got to really get good on our spell casting, and language is the front line. So I love that you're into that. That's a whole other podcast. Maybe we do that too. But Otto, I'm sure, are you familiar with Balaji and the network state? Have you gotten into that stuff?
Say that again. Balaji?
Balaji and his new book, The Network State.
Oh no.
Oh man, I gotta send you this. This stuff is great. He just came out with this book basically on how to create a network state, right? He's like former A16Z Coinbase guy, but he's kind of gone rogue and doing his own project and basically talking about using DAOs and like value aligned online communities that move into digital archipelagos and then eventually can cloud source land and get diplomatic recognition, right? So it's like taking digital nations and actually creating digital states. And this is a really exciting idea.
That's essentially that's what these DAOs are, essentially. But if you make a notice that you're sovereign, that ecosystem is sovereign, that's what it sounds like that he's doing.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely something to check out. But why I bring it up is like he really sees the way things are going in the world right now geopolitically. In America, it's like red versus blue, right? And it's becoming this big thing. But he sees the next battle as orange versus green, which is fiat and CBDCs versus, orange Bitcoin or the sovereign blockchain. And I'm curious, someone asked it here also on the chat, where do you see this going? I mean, it could be quite scary with programmable money and the Great Reset, and you will own nothing and you will eat the bugs, and, and then versus what we want to see, right? Which is like that privatized local ecosystem and economy that we're actually holding the keys to.
Well, first I have a question. So you said that he was part of A16Z?
Yeah.
I did research on them. I haven't put this out there yet, but A16Z is Andreessen Horowitz, which is he's a representative from the WEF. So he's connected to the whole thing. So A16Z was one of the original investors in Ripple, and then a bunch of other companies. So it's interesting that he left. I wonder why. It probably didn't feel right for him, and he's like, "Fuck this, gonna go and do something real." But so this is what I see. I see it's essentially what I've been describing. What is the matrix? The matrix is all of the mainstream systems, centralized systems that we've normalized. That's it. That's all it is, in my opinion, at least. Those systems. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me take that back. It's those systems, those centralized systems that we've normalized, and because we've normalized it and feel safe in them, there's the entrapment, the matrix entrapment, the programming that really entraps us, right? So that's why self-work is so important to do initially, because you got to peel that back first before you can see the practical matrix, the centralized systems matrix. So I believe that those systems are going to continue doing their plan. They're going to move forward in their plan. And there's nothing that is going to stop that. That's my opinion. Nothing's going to stop that. What I think is going to happen is that people are just going to wake up. I think awareness is inevitable. I think that it's impossible with everything that's happening in this world. People are getting shaken out of their reality right now. So I think it's inevitable to become aware. But I think it's going to happen. Everybody's going to have their moment. So it's going to, some are not going to have their moment in time, and they're going to be stuck in that matrix. But I think the bubble, the public matrix bubble that exists right now, that we believe to be the daddy government that is controlling everything, moving forward, it's just going to get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, either from people just dying, people becoming aware and not wanting to be a part of it, people, whatever the reason, it's just going to get smaller. And the private, and we won't know because it's all private, the private will just be getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and more people will be going private and less people will be in the public. And so we live in a reality of free will. It's going to be based on you individually if you can discern the difference. If you can educate yourself enough, do your own research, connect your own dots to become aware of what the systems are going to look like, so that you know that which ones are the bad ones, which ones are the good ones, you'll fall into the trap. So we have to start educating ourselves to know the difference, or like I said, it all goes back to the self-work, because it's going to be the things that feel comfortable. So it's literally, we have to go to the things that feel uncomfortable right now. If it's weird and uncomfortable, that's probably where you need to head to.
Right. Yeah, I would agree. A lot of people since Corona have had the pattern interrupt and the wake-up call. A lot of us, obviously, we're already doing our work and kind of exploring consciousness. But now it's like the battle lines are pretty clear, right? Everyone can see now that, okay, there are different pathways. And as you said, I think awareness is inevitable. A lot of people will opt out, even if they're not savvy to a lot of what you're talking about. They just feel something is off. And, look at China and the social credit system. Look at the level of censorship. Zuckerberg was just on Joe Rogan, and he straight up admitted that the FBI advised Meta to censor the Hunter Biden story. Like, he just said it. He didn't even try to hide it.
And you know what he said? He was like, and then Joe Rogan was like just sitting there, and then he goes, the FBI is, I believe, to be a trustworthy, government entity. It's like, are they though? Are you really just saying that? Yeah.
It's crazy. So much of it's out in the open, which is what gives me a lot of hope, and I'm an optimist, because it's like they're not even trying anymore. Like you said, the plan is just rolling out, and you can just kind of watch it happen. And you're like, okay, what's my move? It's a chessboard, and you don't have to, you're not stuck. Like you said, free will is key. And, Otto, let's move into some thought experiments here. Let's say DAOs really get off the ground, some main ones form. They're privatized. We've taken custodianship of our value and our worth, and we've created these economies. Do you see it moving to the place? And if you check out networks today, there's some interesting pathways. Do you want to be living in a community that's tokenized and in a DAO? And do you want to actually, maybe, I don't know, we could do it in the States, obviously, but we could also leave the US. I've been digital nomading around for 7-8 years now. And, you see people around the world that all have the same dream. Everybody wants to have intentional communities with fresh food, clean earth, clean water. And then I think also this layer of the blockchain comes into that. What do you see, and what do you actually desire? What are you building towards?
So my dream, I guess that's what you're asking, what I envision. I see it as being not necessarily that we're going to be in a, it's like you walk into this community and it's like everything is digital and we're all just connected, to each other. No, I don't want that. All I want is that to facilitate the connection that we should be having. It's like giving us the ability to retrust ourselves. So moving forward, I think the success is going to come from us staying in the same places and just not using their systems. That's simple. Still, transacting with each other, selling products, doing services, doing the same stuff, but just not using their systems, not using the public systems, using private ones that hold value. And again, the only way I think that is possible is doing it locally and privately. And if we can all be, and again, that's why my goal is to educate, and inspire. I want to educate, inspire, because I know that as soon as they become aware of how it works and how the layers work, the inspiration comes quick, because it's like, oh, I can create my own. All the products are there. Like in crypto right now, the blockchain products that you can tap into and create your own private ecosystem already exists. It's literally copy and paste. And even then, like there are some companies that are creating non-coding Web3 community creation, so that you don't have to like be a coder to do it. You can just do it in their custody, and then eventually you transition out, and then you just got to get your own servers, make sure everybody has their own computing power and servers, and then that's it. You get your own community. So that's really what I see. I see us essentially still being in the same places, still using the same physical things, but now we're just transacting with different systems.
Yeah.
And that's it. And everything else will come after that. Because my opinion is, what's after, right? What's after crypto? There's the question. Is that it? Is that the end all be all? It's not. I think crypto is really just giving us a visual representation of what this technology and this body can do. We can tap into a collective conscious 0 point, mycelium network. We just can't, right? We just don't. Why? Because we haven't been taught. We're toxic. We're in toxic environment. So I believe crypto is giving us that visual representation so that we can experience it. We can embody it. We can see it. People are creating maps where you can like see all the wallets, and like it looks like a world, of dots connected. So all of that, so that we can eventually move away from it, where we can graduate and go, oh, we don't need this anymore. We don't need this system to trust each other, because I trust each other, and that's it. But that might be, I don't know, 10 years down, more 15, 20 years down the road eventually to get to that point. But
yeah, I love that vision of just, we were still doing what we're doing. It's just making that subtle shift of like playing over to the local private, putting value and worth into, the economy we want to see, like our food, our groceries, our rent, our transactions, our businesses. We just need to have it on chain in a way that is supporting sovereignty and freedom. And it's going to reach a critical mass, right? Just like with the internet. Like at the beginning, the internet was like just selling books, and it was like chat rooms, and it reached critical mass. And Web 2 has become its monstrous size because everybody got involved and chose it. And I think Web 3, whatever that turns into right now, Web 3 is kind of like, it's in its infancy, and there's also the zero-sum stuff moving in fast.
Honestly, the best. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say the best tip really is like really try to look at it as like because it's easier to see this space and see all the money that's being made and all the people that are making money and go, I want the same. I need this money, right? To externalize, right? To the externalization of self-worth. It's easy to do that. The best advice is really try to look at it as, okay, so there's all that gambling version of crypto, and then there's, I can take my energy and now have control of it. And that's a whole different perspective that brings more, in my opinion, it brings more, there's more natural feel to it. It doesn't feel like it's this negative thing, because it is being used for a negative thing, but there is a positive side.
Totally. I would agree. Kind of a fun question. I mean, you having worked with Sacred Sons and those brothers, how much does Web3 and the tech guys, the tech bros, need men's work?
Oh my gosh. Oh, I see. I confused the question for a second. A lot. I mean, that's, honestly, that's why I'm so focused on Sacred Sons, and I'm actually helping them build out a DAO, a NFT project. Nice. And we haven't announced this yet, so this is, but it's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be awesome. But yeah, that's exactly why I started doing this, because I in my experience in the crypto space, I'm super grateful for Sacred Sons and the time that I got into it when I did, because I was until I went to an event and experienced it, I didn't know how jacked up my nervous system was. Like I was jacked up. And it was only after, 3 or maybe 4 events of doing the shadow work, embodying putting myself into the middle of it, going into the cold river, doing Nippy, the sweat lodge, doing all the stuff that I could then feel the difference of like coming back home, and then the nervous system's coming back up and I'm going, oh crap, I got to go back, or I gotta be more conscious of my daily self-care, because it creeps back. And so crypto bros, that's going to be, because what's going to happen once you make a lot of money, and what's next? It's self-care. That's just literally, it's like the organic next step when you make a lot of money. So it's going to definitely be the next step for most of them, in my opinion.
Yeah, this is an interesting niche and like industry that I think is barely started, is like personal development, specifically in the crypto and tech space, right? Mm-hmm. Because there's a lot of talk about like, oh, like mindset, like trading mindset, abundance mentality, and that's great. But as you said, it all comes back to the soma, the body and the nervous system. And a lot of these guys that are developers or traders or builders in that space, I mean, they got to be high strung, and they are super jacked up, and they don't even know what they don't know. They don't even know this is possible. And I'm excited for more like wellness based DAOs and projects that actually incentivize, and we can create an economy around doing check-ins, doing shadow work, doing that embodiment nervous system, hacking.
The funniest question I get from students that I get from crypto, they're like, how do I turn off the emotions? What? You can't. You can transmute, you can alchemize it, use it for another constructive action, but you can't turn it off. But that's definitely the majority of the people just looking for. I believe that would be the next step, that they're going to be looking for this way to regulate the emotions, regulate the energy, so that they're not reacting. That's usually the case. People are looking for, well, how do I stop reacting to the trades and be more conscious of it?
Yeah. Massive. Another thing, I'm partnered with a project, High Vibe Network, and a lot of the founding team and like a lot of the mission there is about bringing women into Web3 and actually getting the feminine represented in tech. And I'm curious if you've seen any projects, or if you have a lot of women in your classes, and how they're responding to the Web3 space, because the feminine core essence is so different, but I think so needed in Web3 and in crypto, right? Yeah,
that's a great question and comment. Women started to come in heavily when NFTs came around, because it had to do with art and music and just more of the artistic side. So women came in flooding, and I loved it. I still love it, obviously, but I actually recognized that early on, and I tried to connect myself with the women that were in the space early on, and I did. And they were very successful. One of them that I connected to, her name's Marguerite Decourcel. She's the one that does the blockchain-based NFT games. And her company is called Blockade Games, and it's Neon District. That's the name of the game. And they have like 4 or 5 different games inside of that metaverse, or that world. But since women have come in heavily, I've noticed more of this like art, more of the artistic side coming out, more of the emotional side coming out, which again, and I think this is why it inspired this new transition of the NFT communities. Now, what I'm noticing the investors are looking for is, how is the NFT going to be used in the real world? How can I benefit in the real world with NFTs? So I was like, oh, well, that makes sense. How do we stop just anybody online from coming in and being a part of a community when they're not, actually a part of the community? So it looks like that's the direction that everyone wants to move to. It's like, no, we want to go back to the real world. They don't want to keep going and escape. So.
Yeah, I'm not one. I mean, I'm a former gamer, so I used to be like living in metaverses back in the day, right? The Web2 gaming online communities. And, it is just like, it's escapism, it's competition, it's zero sum, and it has like a very negative vibe, you know, even though it's fun and there is like brotherhood in that because it's mainly men. It's not what I want to see, right? And since I've gone out into the world and traveled and been coaching and speaking for many years now, the only metaverse I'd want to even touch is kind of like the Tony Stark, like AR, right? Like I'd be cool to have glasses where I can interface a little bit and have like the Tony Stark system. Like I'm okay with that. I don't want to wear a headset. I don't want to have to be in a digital universe as an avatar and all that. And yeah, I mean, are you involved in, or have you been tracking any of these VR, AR projects out there in the blockchain space?
Actually, um, so I connected with this company. Well, I was an investor into the company. It's called videocoin.io. Now they're called Vivid Labs. But they figured out how to do blockchain-based video transcoding. So how to like basically stream video on the blockchain online. Nobody had figured that out. I don't know if you ever saw that show called Silicon Valley. You ever see that show, Silicon Valley? So on that show, they were trying to solve, this was like back in like 2014, I think, or even before that. But they were trying to solve exactly that. How do we stream on, but it wasn't called blockchain. They called it like distributed ledger or distributed network because they wanted to do it through phones. And they figured it out, right? So this company did the same thing on the blockchain. And they're able to figure out how to stream 4K, high quality, like zero latency with only you needing 30 megabytes of download speed.
Wow.
Which is insane. Yeah, that's unheard of. So all through the blockchain. And so what inspired them, so this is the fun part, what inspired them to create that was this. They created a 360-degree VR camera, which they want, essentially is like the next, in my opinion, is like the next generation of VR. But it's 16 4K cameras. See it?
Wow.
It's like a little heat sink. And you put this on a stand, you can plug it in to the internet, turn it on, and it streams 360 VR online. So yeah, so I've been working with a few companies that have been doing this. There's another company called Filecoin, which does blockchain-based storage. So I am working with two different projects right now that are, yeah, I'm not going to work with that one anymore. I'm working with one project right now that they're trying to build out a sort of like a Netflix, but for conscious stuff. Well, you might know who it is. You know Jason Shirka, Unified.
Yeah.
So yeah, so he just started recreating his social media platform from scratch, and so we're going to incorporate the layers needed to be able to slap it on the blockchain. So.
Wow, that's exciting. We need the blockchain sovereign versions of everything we're using right now. And whoever the first mover is in blockchain social, I mean, I'm ready. I messed around with Steemit. I'm sure you saw Steemit. I messed around with BitClout, now Deso, but they weren't it, And I think obviously Meta's announced that Facebook and Instagram for select creators will have NFT functionality, but we don't want to be supporting Meta forever. We got to find the platform like Instagram, like TikTok, like YouTube, that's going to be on chain where we hold the keys. And I'm so ready for that as a content creator. There actually is a, it looks like Twitter. There is a blockchain-based Twitter right now that you connect to it with your wallet, and it has a token system and everything is blockchain. I can send you the link. I forgot the name of it though, but it's legit. And I was like, oh wow, somebody actually made one. Now who created it? I'm not sure yet. I don't know who created it. I don't know who put it out. But at the end of the day, it's public, right? So public versions of things, remember, that's always going to invite that evil. Totally. Well, Otto, this has been amazing, brother. We might have to do a round two because there's so many other questions and other like niche areas of the blockchain space. But obviously people watching, go follow this man. He's one of the best resources for the crypto space that's on social media that's doing good. And Otto, what do you have coming up? Do you have a new cohort in your course, or what are you excited about right now?
Yes, I'm so glad you asked. I just restructured my whole thing. I used to have 5 offerings. I had like 5 different products, and everybody would always ask me, "Where do I start? Do I go do this one, this one?" So I decided to eliminate the offers and create one offer that everybody has to go through if you want to work with me. So it's an 8-week journey, an 8-week class, and the next one starts September 12th. So in like 10 days, 11 days. And essentially you can go through the whole class, no problem. You get all the stuff that the class is going to be, going to be offered through the class. It's 1,200. But if you want to go deeper, if you want to, do one-to-one with me, if you want to get more access to me to have questions in real time while the class is happening, I do have deeper layers that you can go into that, I have a $3,000 layer, and then I have a $5,400 layer that you get like full access to me. But essentially the $1,200 8-week, that's so far I've done 3 classes and 20 students each, and it's been solid. Like people have loved it. You come out of it knowing the basics, the practical steps, storing, transferring, buying, selling, even tapping, like knowing how to tap into the dApps, the decentralized applications, but then also mindset. There's like literally 3, maybe 4 weeks, and it's just mindset. It's just us like becoming aware of our relationship to money. And so I do a lot of embodiment challenges. I put you in the middle of it and like, hey, go do this thing and see how you feel. Write it down. What's the reaction? Just to get more aware of it.
Yeah, I love that. Mindset is really the cornerstone here. You can buy and sell and invest all day, but if you don't know why you're doing it and you don't have self-knowledge and you're not tapping into the worth and not giving it away, none of it's going to matter. Like you said, you can make millions, but then what? Still got to heal yourself, still got to have good relationships, and, help create the more beautiful world that we actually want to be in. So, wow, bro, this has been amazing.
I posted my website there that has all the information. It's ottogomes.live/crypto freedom circle. Guys, take a look. All the information is there of what is offered, so you can be very clear what it is.
Sweet. Yeah, go check this man out. Make sure you're following him. If you've gotten benefit from this video, I'm going to be reposting it, so don't worry. You can tag and share to anyone that needs this knowledge, because we gotta take back economics, and we gotta take back value, and we gotta do it at the local layer. So, Otto, so grateful for you, bro. Have an amazing evening over there.
Love you, Kevin. Thank you so much, brothers. Appreciate it.
Cheers.
Cheers. Bye.